Good afternoon, everybody. This is Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading. It's 1:20 p.m. on June 7, 2023. I pulled a thread. Let's see, when was this? It's actually from 2022, the end of 2022. And this is the background on psychological or psychiatric slander. The company's quote-unquote favorite way of disposing of its victims is to try to lock them in a mental hospital, quote-unquote, by criminal misdiagnosis. From Resources for TIs in a book by Jeffrey Schaler, S-C-H-A-L-E-R-S, award-winning speech, okay? So his award-winning speech goes as follows. And this is only a small portion of it, folks. Perps endeavor to have TIs evaluated for psychiatric misdiagnosis. The U.S. Air Force and CIA pioneered this from the 1950s to the 1960s with Project Moonstruck onward, books 1 to 3. And then I have a URL here. It's freetargetedindividuals.com. Yet psychiatrists maintain that quote-unquote hearing voices indicates schizophrenia, rather than over half a century old directed audio technology. Psychiatry and the U.S. Air Force, CIA, NSA consequently are morally bankrupt. Jeffrey Schaler explained some of this nonsense in his Thomas Saz award speech, The Psychology is a Weapon. It's on YouTube, and I will post the URL. Like covert agencies, the U.S. Department of Defense weaponized psychiatry. For example, from ABC News, military whistleblowers are fired with fabricated psychiatric evaluations. Again, this is on YouTube. I can post the link. Dr. Colin Ross wrote in his Bluebird book, after receiving 15,000 pages of CIA documents on a Freedom of Information Act request, he confirms that the CIA's favorite way of disposing of its victims is to lock them in a mental hospital and try to throw away the key. He also proved that most of the board members of the False Memory Syndrome Foundation were CIA. A medical doctor and former CIA employee explained, the week after I refused a false flag assignment to instigate war with Iran, I was kidnapped in Virginia, tortured in an underground CACI facility next to CIA headquarters, and injected with CIA designer drugs. I don't know what that is, folks. Designer drugs? After I was released, I was thrown into a mental hospital to try to prove that I was crazy. The CIA used long-acting benzodiazepines, and amphetamine to discredit people. Russ Tice, the NSA analyst who blew the whistle on U.S. domestic spying, was also thrown into a mental hospital to give him a record. I had no previous psychiatric hospitalizations and had never been prescribed drugs by a therapist. The medical physician promptly let me out of the hospital as sane but suffering from sleep deprivation. It took me many months before the effects of the benzos wore off. Anybody who wants to know the effects of benzodiazepines, go to Jordan Peterson's channel, and he will describe succinctly the withdrawal symptoms and how long it took for him to detox from those horrific drugs. The ability to forcibly detain individuals for psychological evaluation has enabled such criminality, and statutes enabling involuntary psychiatric evaluation or treatment violate liberty, violate the Constitution, and so must be defenestrated. In the interim, depriving TI's rights under the color of law violates 18 U.S. Code Section 242. When it leads to death, it is punishable by death, notwithstanding any legislation to the contrary. Okay, folks, so that's just a one-page thread. I had printed this out back in 2022, and I tucked it away. This was posted by a man named Noam, Noam Groons, on Twitter. And he wrote, "The background on psychological or psychiatric slander is the company's favorite way of disposing of its victims." So please hit the thumbs up, like, comment down below, share. If you or a family member has experienced these horrors, and if you know anything about it from history, I look forward to your comments. This is Lorraine, Alternative Homesteading, signing off for now.